It's an honor to stand here again for something America is finally united on: the immediate release of the entire Epstein files. In a divided nation, this is one demand we all share. Last time I stood here, I made a promise to all survivors watching. If those in power refused to release the truth, we would start uncovering it ourselves. For anyone who doubted that, that moment has already arrived. Since that day, more survivors across the country and around the world have reached out: text, emails, DMs, firsthand accounts, and evidence. Many are women who were abused or trafficked through the international modeling pipeline Epstein built, promising visas, apartments, opportunities, futures, while exploiting their dreams for abuse. Most are still terrified to speak publicly because the men involved are powerful. They're connected, and as we know, they're protected. For too long, survivors have watched others speak for us. And while we are grateful for our allies in Congress on both sides, we've realized something. This fight belongs to us. We lived it, and we know the truth. And we will not wait quietly for institutions to decide when we're allowed to speak. The survivors now coming forward have entrusted us with their stories. We are sharing that information with the proper authorities, and when it can safely be made public, it will be. So today, we are launching something historic: the first national survivor-led political movement in America. Nonpartisan, laser-focused on exposing the systems, the loopholes, power structures, and silencing mechanisms that have protected predators for far too long. We are stepping directly into the halls of power, into the political arena. We will help rewrite laws that failed us and build protections for our nation's children together, targeted by sexual exploitation. Together, today, survivors begin our own fight, the survivor revolution. And we intend to change this nation for the better. If you're a survivor who wants to join us, please reach out. And to anyone who benefits from the current system, intentionally or not, remember this: alone, yes, we are afraid, but together, we are feared. Thank you.
Those that follow Legal AF and the Midas Touch Network know that we are proud supporters of survivors, especially the survivors of the Epstein child sex trafficking ring. And when we hear a survivor like Lisa Phillips publicly announce that she is effectively one of the leaders of an organized, disciplined survivor political movement that has grown out of the resistance that she and others have faced, led by the Trump administration. There's no one else to blame by Trump and the MAGA sycophants around him. We have the pleasure to have Lisa Phillips here, who's going to talk about not only how she came to become a survivor, but what she's doing moving forward on behalf of survivors like herself. And as she once said, and we'll play a clip a little bit later, if the Trump administration won't release the client list and won't release the evidence, you can be darn straight that the survivors are going to. I welcome Lisa Phillips to Legal AF. Hi, Lisa.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Looking forward to this for a long, long time. If our audience doesn't know you, they now have been introduced to you just in the last few days there in Washington as the bill was finally passed by the House and then by verbal consent by the Senate. Yeah, I see you're happy about that, and you should be. It's amazing what you and the others, the strength, the courage that it took for you to make that happen and to shame effectively the Trump administration, Department of Justice, and the MAGA Congress to stand by the survivors and not the predators. The fact that it even had to come to that, the documents have always been in the hands of the executive branch. They never needed the legislative branch to release a darn thing. But you holding them accountable. Talk about your being in Washington, that press conference of which you were one of several survivors that spoke. And then I want to bring the audience into the House chamber and your meetings with the Democratic Women's Caucus and Republican Women's Caucus, who in a rare bipartisan moment stood with the survivors. And what a rare opportunity to have Lisa Phillips talk to us about her days in Washington, talk about the House chamber, being in the House chamber and the vote there, along with other survivors. And something little known, I think, Lisa, is that there was a closed door meeting that you and the other survivors had with the Democratic Women's Caucus, but the Republicans Women's Caucus was there as well. A rare moment of bipartisanship to support survivors over predators. Why don't you bring our audience with you to your trip to Washington and brief them?
Well, I think the survivors have been clear from the very beginning. We actually don't care for it to be a Democratic or a Republican issue. This is a human rights issue. This is a sex trafficking issue. This is a sexual abuse issue that we have in the United States. And of course, we are survivors of Epstein, but we are standing there as survivors representing, all survivors. And so, this is a very important issue for us. And I think the Democratic Women's Caucus realized that right off the bat and supported us in September and also this time around. They invite us into their chambers and, speak to us at a heart-centered level, not in any other way of just like doing what's right for us. And they invited the Republicans Women Caucus in, and quite a few showed up and spoke to us and supported us. And we also held a vigil where we found the news that they had passed the bill. And during the vigil, some showed up for that. Some said they were going to show up, and some Republicans didn't show up for that, but I know they wanted to. So just coming together, all of us, and the support was just, it was phenomenal. And that was what we wanted. It's what was missing kind of from the Me Too time, when it wasn't the support of our government and the support of the people weren't as behind. But, that was quite a few years ago, and it's growing so much since then. So I'm just so proud to be part of this movement that is actually making change.
Do you think, back on the Me Too movement, do you think that movement has sort of now petered out a bit, and it's now up to the survivors led by you to organize and lead a new political movement that recognizes the rights of survivors in a way that Me Too wasn't able to?
Well, Me Too was powerful. Mm-hmm. Time's Up, Weinstein, Cosby survivors really supported that. I don't feel like the public was behind it as it needed to. There was too much scrutiny and too much victim blaming and victim shaming going on. I was even scared to speak out during that time. It just wasn't the same movement as the Epstein survivors. We took over Capitol Hill, but we took it to a whole nother level. We took it to where we're not messing around anymore. This has been 20 years of waiting. And everyone's like, well, why did they come out now? Why are they finally speaking out now? Well, we're finally mothers of teenagers. We finally see us in our children, and we realize, wait a second, look how young and innocent they are. Look, they're just children. And a lot of times when we were younger, we think, oh, we're adult, we can handle this, and we handled all of it in secrecy and in shame. And the new movement with teenagers and young adults now, they have TikTok, they have phones to record everything. They take selfies of everything. They are just more well aware of all the information that's out there. They get it as young adults and teenagers where we didn't.
That's a very good observation. Could you imagine, in the age of social media, Instagram and cell phones, the events at Mar-a-Lago, the events on the island that you were on with Jeffrey Epstein? Can you imagine?
Oh, if we had phones back then, it would have never have lasted. He would have been caught immediately. Too much information we would have been on TikTok. There were so many things that would have come out. Like, you can't get away with many things nowadays. Yeah. But that's why everyone was able to enable him back then.
Well, I just did a hot take that's up now on our channel about, and to remind, just mainly reminding of you, this is just piecing together information that's always been out there.
Always
You
been
know,
out there.
the 1990s, 1991, when Donald Trump ran a modeling agency, Epstein ran a modeling agency, John Casablancas ran a modeling agency. They all were going to Europe for pageants. They were running the elite, pageant in New York. Right? Were you at that one?
Well, I came a little bit later.
A
I'm
little
more of
later.
a late 90s, like 2000s.
Right. I'm an early 90s
Yeah,
guy.
but still the
Right.
same, still the
Right.
same. And we
Right.
definitely knew of the young girls that were being abused behind
Mhm.
closed doors, some of them with their mothers right outside the door.
Right. And Donald Trump using, instead of Mar-a-Lago, the Plaza Hotel, which he owned at the time, as
Yeah.
as the headquarters for John Casablancas and his. I've just did a hot take that said, how many people out there, count on your fingers how many child sex predators and traffickers you have as friends. Donald Trump has at least three.
Well,
John
yeah.
Casablancas, Ghislaine Maxwell, and Jeffrey Epstein.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's what my movement has always been about. I represent the mauling business.
Mm-hmm.
I represent hundreds, if not thousands, of young women that were abused in this trafficking network. And that every time I speak out, you see me get emotional because it's not just myself standing up there. I'm representing probably 30 or 40 people that I know closely and others that I don't know that I know are out there that have suffered through this.
And what, just so people know your origin story as it relates to Epstein, not your origin story as a person, what was the motivating factor for you to come forward?
Well, I was abused on the island. I just happened to be there. I wasn't one of Jeffrey's girls that were flown in, or I just didn't have the same type of look and that I think he liked back then, and that he was trafficking. I just happened to be on a photo shoot, and one of his girls that he was abusing, but I didn't know at the time, brought me over, because that's how Jeffrey operated. He had the young girls bring other young girls. It was always women bringing girls. It was almost a genius plan, because it made you put the shame back on the girls. And that's how I was brought there. And I witnessed a few things when I was there. I saw the girls that were there, and I saw the older men that were there. And so when Virginia Giuffre started speaking out in 2019 and others, I wanted to say, wait a second, like, I know they're telling the truth. Not thinking I would ever speak out about my abuse. I wasn't ready for that. I wasn't even putting I wasn't even connecting the dots, really. And I didn't even want to think about it. But I did know that these other girls were being abused on that island, because I saw it happen. And so I just wanted to do the right thing and started doing documentaries and started speaking out about other survivors. And I think a lot of people don't realize is that during those years, 2019 and 2020, I didn't have any support. I didn't have parental support, siblings, friends, my partner at the time. Nobody was supporting me. And so I desperately reached out to survivors of Epstein. And that's where I found, and still to this day, as you saw on Capitol Hill, that support is a bond. And they were actually the ones that could understand what I was going through and didn't judge me. And they had, exact same stories, whether you were 14 or 24. So that's a very powerful thing. And that was my movement that you still see today, as I'm always standing up there representing survivors. It started with that, speaking out, and it's still continuing to this day.
And what is so powerful about a number of things that you said, and when you ended the speech on Capitol Hill last week with, we were once afraid, but now we're feared together. And the fact that, and I have another clip we're going to play in a second, kind of a bookend here, right? Several weeks earlier, you let the powerful know that if they were not going to do the right thing, the survivors had the evidence. The survivors had the names. And if they weren't going to release it, then the survivors were going to do it for them. In fact, let's play that clip for us.
Epstein was not just a serial predator. He was an international human trafficker. And many around him knew, many participated, and many profited. And yet he was protected. So I stand here today for every woman who has been silenced, exploited, and dismissed. We are not asking for pity. We are here demanding accountability, and I'm demanding justice. Congress must choose. Will you continue to protect predators, or will you finally protect survivors? And also, I would like to announce here today us Epstein survivors have been discussing creating our own list. We know the names. Many of us were abused by them. Now, together as survivors, we will confidentially compile the names we all know who were regularly in the Epstein world. And it will be done by survivors and for survivors.
Lisa, now that you've announced that, which is a truth that I guess the powerful that were profiting, as you said once, by the organized international child sex trafficking ring led by Epstein, but not just benefiting Epstein. Now that that's out there, do you find that your interaction with elected officials and those in power to be different, that now the power imbalance runs the other way?
Mm-hmm. Well, that was the whole reason why I did it. It's because I don't do anything like 50%. Like if I'm going to stand up here, I'm going to do it 110%. I'm going to give everything, and I'm going to use my, intelligence to know they keep pushing us down like we're nothing, like we're these victims and we should be ashamed. But no, we're actually powerful women now, and we know the truth. Speaking to our attorneys, speaking out, we know the truth. We've seen things. We just don't really want to say what they are because we fear for our lives, and there's repercussions to that, right? So, but I wanted to say, stop messing with us, because we know too. And I think it was a very powerful moment. I didn't know how big it was going to be, but when I said it, I think, Congress and others, on Capitol Hill took notice of that and was like, wait a second, she's right. They're taking the power back. It put us at a different level of respect, I think.
Right.
And all of a sudden, we were rushed in, and they're like, okay, wait a second. Now they saw us as equals. They saw us. You know what they said to us? They said, you know what? You could be part of Congress one day. You could run. You know what I mean? Like, you could do it. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a sad commentary. We'll turn to Marjorie Taylor Greene, that the only female Republicans that joined with the discharge petition were those that acknowledged that they had been victims of sexual abuse in their own pasts, right? Nancy Mace.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was just going to identify
You can see that.
Mm-hmm.
The Republicans Women's Caucus that showed up for us, along with the Democrats in that room, all said they were going to be at that vigil. They really wanted to be there for us. It was fear that why they didn't come through for us. And we noticed they didn't show up, but I think they really wanted to, right? So it's not just fear on the survivor side of telling the names, it's fear on their side too.
Yeah, it's fear of a Laura Loomer or somebody on the on the MAGA right calling them out in a social media post, and then having to. Now let's use Marjorie Taylor Greene as an example.
Exactly.
I was going
to say that, this courageous woman who stood up for us.
Well, that's what I want to talk about, because our audience has, as you would imagine, has mixed feelings about Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Of course they do. Yes.
And we didn't know that she was, of course, going to resign. But why don't you say, just, listen, I'll take her at her word in terms of the authenticity of her. Talk about her support for your movement and whether you believed it was sincere. And then we'll fast forward to when she resigned and why she resigned.
Yes, I think we all believed it was sincere, because she's standing up there with us. I mean, if there was any other ulterior motive, she's still standing up there fighting for us. And, just to have a Republican do that, I think also, she got basically fired for it. She had to resign for it. So she fought till the end for us. And she made a big difference in our results that we got that day.
Do you think she knew that there was a possibility she'd be tossed from the party for supporting you? It was a risk she was willing to take? Mm-hmm.
I think so, of course. Trump is her boss, so to speak. I think she knew. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, she's now up there.
On the fight for us, though.
Yeah. She's up there now with Liz Cheney. I never thought I'd put Liz Cheney and Marjorie Taylor Greene in the same breath, but in their own way, and I take you at your word. You're there. You're with her. So you felt her support was very genuine, and as you said, she was fired as a result of it. So we've told our audience that the passage of the bill, the signing of the bill, an important milestone, also demonstrating Donald Trump's slip on his slip of his grip on power, his increasing inability to control even MAGA. You see it already.
Mm-hmm.
But let's be frank. 2 weeks or so, a week before the bill was inevitable that it was going to be voted on. Were you shocked by the number? Everybody but one voted for it.
We were expecting it to be unanimous. I mean, how
You
could it
were.
not be? Yeah,
Well, of
we were.
course.
But
Of course.
it was still good enough. We were still extremely happy, and we could see down, on the House floor, everyone just like, going like this and giving us hearts, and they were just on our side. Everybody but him,
Yeah.
but that one.
That one.
It was a very, very powerful moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody was feeling it. It
And
was different,
and they applauded, and from the House floor, they applauded you and your survivors, right?
Yeah, because they
Yeah.
know that we weren't giving up. They weren't
Yeah.
going to get rid of us. I mean, Trump knew, he wasn't expecting these women to really come at him like this and not break down.
So a week or so before Pam Bondi, Attorney General, announces, because Donald Trump tells her to, that she's going to open a new criminal investigation, despite the fact that 4 months earlier she did a closeout memo along with the FBI and said there's no crimes. Kash Patel testified under oath to the House and the Senate that there was no other perpetrator of the child sex trafficking or that benefited from him other than Jeffrey Epstein. Even the MAGA congressman, Senator Kennedy, was like, excuse me, that's 4 months ago. Now we're opening up a Southern District of New York prosecution with Jay Clayton, Donald Trump's old golf buddy and head of the SEC, whose law firm is representing Donald Trump in a series of appeals. And he's going to be given the blinder task of only looking at the Epstein files from the non-Donald Trump side, only the Democrats. And that, there was language in the bill that said, well, there's an active investigation. Well, who knows what we'll release? What's your feeling there? What's going to happen next?
Well, we knew once he signed over on the bill that there were going to be delays. We didn't know what was going to happen, but we knew, there was going to be ongoing investigation exemptions, of course. Hopefully it won't last too long. I don't really know what to say about that because I wasn't quite sure what he was going to do.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we're going to see it. I mean, I think, again, it's back to crowds and courage and Survivor, you leading the Survivor movement, because if he tries to use the phony, bogus, fabricated investigation to block the release, we just have to do what we've always done, support you. The survivors are back in Capitol Hill, and we're screaming at the top of our lungs for the release of the
we'll come
files.
back, don't worry. I mean, it can go on for a while because there's many powerful individuals in the files: enablers, financiers, recruiters, high-profile clients abroad, institutions, university. I mean, the list is endless. So there could be these stalls for a very long time.
Yeah, look what we saw from the release of the hard drive from the Epstein estate, a couple of months ago, and then the last drop that came out from the Oversight Committee. And that's not even coming from the quote unquote Epstein files that are with the Department of Justice and FBI. That's I guess independent, although you would assume there was some overlap there. So talk to our audience about the next steps for what you call the organized, disciplined survivor political movement that's going to rise up and has risen up from these events. And I know your involvement in it. We always like to leave our audience with a little bit of a hopeful feeling about what could happen in the future and for other survivors. So I'll turn it over to you for that.
Right. Well, survivors are always doing what they can behind the scenes. I mean, there's many nonprofits and C3s out there, but, I got together with a few survivors and we discussed creating organized political movement through a C4. So, I mean, we can talk about this more in a few weeks, but it's a nonprofit, it's nonpartisan, it's a legal political advocacy organization. As you know, C3s, they cannot engage in active political advocacy. So, I mean, I'm not trying to declare a leader of the movement. I acknowledge it started with Time's Up and Me Too. But we're adding the next piece to the overall growing movement, a disciplined, organized piece by survivors for survivors only. like I said at Capitol Hill, this is for survivors, by survivors. We're going in the halls of state legislatures and the halls of Congress. So there's a lot to look forward to in the future.
Absolutely. And up and down the state houses too, and the state legislatures, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, listen, we'll be announcing something in the next couple of weeks, but Legal AF and Midas Touch are going to be working very closely with your political movement, your political organization, with Lisa Phillips particularly, and those that support her, both on the political side and on the legal side, helping survivors. We're not ready quite yet. We're teasing it a little bit, but we will be. You will be seeing more of Lisa Phillips, and that's a great thing here on Legal AF. And for those that you have a regular podcast as well, and on YouTube. Why don't you tell the audience a bit about that?
Well, I'm the host of From Now On. We actually wrapped up season 1 with nominations for Ambies, Webbies, Women Podcasters. We just won 2 Gold Signal Awards. So that was my baby. I put all my heart and soul into speaking to survivor voices and getting the full arc of their healing journey and what happens next for them. And looking for a home for that for season 2. And
I can think of one.
Yeah,
I got one in mind, Lisa.
Thank you. No, it's just there's 1 in 4 women are survivors, right? 1 in 5 men. There's just, this isn't a thing of, look, this happens over there. This happens to all of us. Everyone knows, whether it's themselves or, you know, a family member or a friend. This is a very important issue that we have to discuss in America. And doing that podcast is where I learned about not just survivors of serial predators, but how far reach this is and how important it is to keep the conversation going.
And if people are interested, which I know they will be, look down in notes for the link to From Now On, the podcast, for there as well. I mean, I'll just give my own personal experience, recent experience. You know, I was in Scottsdale, Arizona, to interview 11 attorneys general in various ways at their conference, Democratic attorneys general. And I don't know, maybe they have this thing in Cali where you live, but do you have these Waymo autonomous driving cars?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I see them all the time.
Right. Right. All right. So one pulled in for me. I don't know. I mean, I called an Uber and okay. And then I was talking to people in the hospitality industry, and they said, I hadn't thought about this, mainly because I'm a guy. And they said it's popular with women who are alone at night, having gone out with their friends, because they don't have to worry about being preyed on by a human driver. And I thought, I would never have thought of that. And I was talking to a driver who drove me back to the airport, is another guy. And I know this from having represented, I've done sex assault civil cases. I represented one of the first men or boys in the hashtag Me Too movement, Ricky Garcia, who we ended up suing in a successful jury case in Los Angeles. His manager, who sexually abused him for years under the watchful eye of his mother, because you know he groomed the mom, and the mom unfortunately was looking the other way.
That's a real thing.
It's a real thing. And I said to the driver, and I know the stats from my own life, I said, you know, if you talk to women, 50% of them have had some sort of untoward sexual assault, sexual harassment, or discrimination at work. And you and I have never had that at all. And yet one half of women, just statistically, you know, every woman I've ever known has had something bad happen to them at work or out in public. And and yet very few men can say that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a real thing that we're dealing with.
It's a real thing.
And it can get very dark and ugly.
Absolutely, as you've testified to. So glad you're here, Lisa Phillips, joining Legal AF to brief our audience, and we're going to make it a more regular thing here. For those that want to learn more about Lisa Phillips, there's social media handles that you can see for her, and also From Now On, a award-winning podcast that just wrapped its season 1, and you can find it below. So until my next report, I'm Michael Popok. Take a moment, hit the subscribe button, the free subscribe button for Legal AF. We're going to crash through the 1 million subscriber threshold probably right before the holidays at this rate, and that's all because of our great audience, and they want to hear, you know, they want to see this type of interview, this type of content at the moment. I really do appreciate you coming on, talking to us, Lisa Phillips, here on Legal AF. I'm Michael Popok, and I got some big news for our audience. Most of you know me as the co-founder of Midas Touch's Legal AF and the Legal AF YouTube channel, or as a 35-year national trial lawyer. Now, building on what we started together on Legal AF, I've launched a new law firm, the Popok Firm, dedicated to obtaining justice through compassionate and zealous legal representation. At the Popok Firm, we are focused on obtaining justice for those who have been injured or damaged by a life-altering event by securing the highest dollar recoveries. I've been tirelessly fighting for justice for the last 35 years, so my own law firm organically building on my Legal AF work just feels right. And I've handpicked a team of top-tier trial fighters and settlement experts throughout all 50 states known as big auto injury attorneys who have the know-how to beat heartless insurance companies, corporations, government entities, and their attorneys. Big Auto's attorneys working with my firm are rock stars in their respective states and collectively responsible for billions of dollars in recoveries. So if you or a loved one have been on the wrong side of a catastrophic auto, motor vehicle, rideshare, or truck accident, suffered a personal injury, or been the victim of medical malpractice, employment harassment or discrimination, or suffered a violation of your civil and constitutional rights, then contact the Popok Firm today at 1-877-POPOK-AF or by visiting my website at www.thepopokfirm.com and fill out a free case evaluation form. And if we determine that you have a case and you sign with us, we don't get paid unless you do. The Popok Firm, fighting for your justice every step of the way.